Today I'll be showing you how to play Skud Pai Sho. But first, we need to get to the Skud Pai Sho screen, so I'll show you how to make a new game for it first. So just hit New. We're going to go to the first option here, which is Skud Pai Sho. These are additional rules you can add on, but you don't have to. When you're first in this screen, you need to pick your 4 ancient tiles. I recommend doing all options. Reason why, you get to learn how to play them. They all play very differently, and we'll go through that and you can see. Alright, created game. So the point of the game is to make a harmony ring around the most center point of the board, which is this point right here. You do so by using the 6 basic flower tiles and the white lotus. So these are the 6 basic flower tiles. They all have different names, but I'm going to go with the basic names for them, which is going to be red 3, red 4, red 5, white 3, white 4, white 5. The reason why they're called that is red 3, it can move 3 once it's planted and blooming, which is summoning and then moved into play. It moves 3 on the board. Red 4 moves 4 on the board. Red 5 moves 5 on the board, and continues on. Now this might be a little confusing, but the way that each basic flower tile works is each tile has 2 other basic flower tiles that harmonize with them, an additional basic flower tile that disharmonize with it. I know that sounds a little confusing, but for instance, this one harmonizes with red 3 and red 5, and this middle white 4, also harmonizes with white 3 and white 5. So the middle ones harmonize with all red, this middle one harmonizes with all white. That's easy. But I'm actually going to go to an example real quickly. Alright, this is my example of a harmony ring. This shows everything that disharmonizes and harmonizes with. So when it harmonizes with, you see these blue lines connecting them. You can go as far as you want, and the blue lines will still be effect. That just means that they harmonize with that one. So as you see, that white 5 harmonizes with red 1. White 5 also harmonizes with white 4. White 4 harmonizes with white 3. White 3 harmonizes with red 5. Red 5 harmonizes with red 4. And red 4 harmonizes with red 3. The white lotus harmonizes with all of them. Now, the disharmony, what disharmony means is that they are not allowed to be on the same line on the X or Y axis of the board, which is the X and Y lines on the board, horizontal and vertical, unless if they have something, an object or a tile disrupting. So, the red 5 and white 5 are opposites, which means that they could take each other if played, and they're not allowed to be on the same line. White 3 and red 3 are opposites. They can take each other. And white 4 and red 4 are opposites. They can take each other. The reason why they are actually on the same line is because I have the white lotus blocking them. So again, if you have a tile blocking disharmonizing tiles on the same line, they're allowed to be there. The white lotus harmonizes with everything. You can't take anything. I know it's hard to remember the pattern of which ones harmonize with which ones and which ones disharmonize with which ones. But thankfully, the developer of this website did a very genius thing of how he set up the tiles on the right-hand side. Is the way they set up, whichever one is in the middle of 2 harmonizes. So, for instance, this red 4 harmonizes with the red 3 and red 5, but this red 1 right here also harmonizes with white 5 and the red 4. It also with the red 5 harmonizes with the white 3 and red 4. In the disharmonies is also exactly how they're set up. You can see 1, 2, 3 reds, 1, 2, 3 whites, whichever in this first position disharmonizes whatever whites in the first position. Whichever in the second position disharmonizes whatever in the white in the second position. Whichever in the third position disharmonizes whatever the white in the third position. So this setup right here actually can really help you with which ones harmonizes, which one disharmonizes, without having to remember this cheat sheet circle right here. Okay, now let's go over the ancient tiles. Ancient tiles are the rock, wheel, wheat knot, boat, white lotus, and the orchid. We're just gonna go over in this example the rock, wheel, knot, wheat, and the boat. Alright, if we were thinking that we were player 2, the black tiles, and we see that player 1, the white tiles, have 2 harmonies going already and about to get their third one out, we can use these to help us. So first I'm going to show you the knot wheat. So how you place the ancient tiles is by making a harmony. So red 3 and white 3 and red 5 harmonize. So if we put them on the same tile, now since we have nothing in gates, we can either summon another tile or plant, or we can use an ancient tile. Say we're going to use the knot wheat. So what this does is it makes any tile adjacent from it not able to make a harmony. So if we put this next to the white 3 of the opponents, well, this whole harmony stops. And if they try to move out of it, it won't work. They have to be out of it completely, and then that's when they can make a harmony again. So knot wheat, very powerful. This whole square around it, nothing will be able to make a harmony. But they can stop that with a boat. Now what the boat does is, for any flower tile, it can move one space adjacent to it, and any ancient tile it will destroy. So for instance, if we made a harmony here and we wanted to use the boat to, let's say, move this. Now if you see, I can move it anywhere adjacent to it. So let's just pick here. And the boat stays there on the field, so it also works almost as a blocking tile. Or the boat can also destroy ancient tiles. So for instance, if we put this here, if I use my boat, I can destroy this wheat knot if I wanted. So that's the boat. So the rock can block any harmonies on the X and Y axis of the lines. So yeah, the horizontal and vertical. So let's say if we harmonize this and we wanted to put a rock right. So that means anything on this line, even if it's on the other side of the rock, won't be able to harmonize. And anything on this line over here also won't be able to harmonize, because the rock is blocking all harmonies on this line and this line. But again, you can destroy the rock with the boat. Now, I think the best one, personally, is the wheel. Because the wheel can turn any tile besides the rock, because the rock is permanently in its place. The only thing that can disrupt the rock is a boat. But the wheel can turn anything or everything around it clockwise by 1. So, for example, if we have something set up like this in the corner here, just to show how the wheel works, if we put the wheel in the middle, everything would move one space clockwise. And interesting enough, this is set up to actually make a harmony. So if we have their white lotus harmonize with that, they'll be able to place a wheel, and everything moves one space horizontally. Obviously this is not a winning move because it's not around the most center point, but this is just to explain how the wheel works. And the wheel can actually be used to turn certain tiles out of the way, and I'll actually show you a couple examples of that. Here's a somewhat common example. Let's say if we were player 1, the white tiles, and we're about to win, get the harmony around the middle circle because we have our white lotus, which is also harmonizing with the enemy's player. That's a special thing about the white lotus. And then harmonizing with our white 5, which is harmonizing with red 3. And all we need to do is put our white 5 right here, and then we'll have a full circle, except for we have the enemy's white 5 in the way. So how we would get around that is by using the wheel. This is what the wheel is great for. Since the wheel can move any tile one space clockwise, if we put the wheel right here, this will move one up. See, if we put the wheel right here, it would also move one up, except for it would be blocking, the wheel would be blocking the harmony. So just to show how that would work, we would make this harmony right here, and we're not able to summon another tile because we already have a tile planted or in the summoning gates, not in play. So we can play an ancient tile. And then if we move this right here, it'll move him right out of the way and make that harmony. But if we did it the other way, where if we put it right here, we'd still move him out of the way, but it would block our harmony, not allowing us to win. Another way you could also do this, also using the wheel, is by moving him up here, and I can move the wheel to move my piece up as well, my White Lotus. So if I put a wheel right here, we'll move it one up, and it will also make the harmony. Right. The White Lotus is very easy to use. How you plant it or summon it onto the board, or place it onto the board, is you have to make a harmony, and then put it in one of these gates. And this is the only time where it doesn't matter if you already have another tile planted. But in this case, I won't. I'll have him move over here. I'll have him summon his White Lotus. Now, the thing about the White Lotus, it only moves 2, and it can summon, or it can harmonize with everything on the field except for the Orchid. The Orchid doesn't harmonize with anything. But the White Lotus harmonizes with absolutely everything, including your opponent's tiles. I'm just going to move him, let's say right here, and let's say if we move him up too. They harmonize. You're not able to summon anything as player 2 when it harmonizes with an opponent tile, but the opponent, if he does harmonize with it on his turn, he can summon one. So yes, the White Lotus is very powerful, but can only move 2, and the downside is opponents can use it to win if they think of a smart play with it. A harder tile to deal with is the Orchid. So let's just say we harmonize and we bring out the Orchid. You bring out the Orchid the same way you bring out the White Lotus. You have to make a harmony, and if one of the gates is unplanted or doesn't have any tile placed in it, then you can summon it there. And the thing about the Orchid is it's very unique because it moves the most moves. It can move up to 6 moves, and it disharmonizes with every piece, except for it's allowed to be on that same X and Y axis, but it can take every piece, but only if your White Lotus is in play. So, for instance, if I bring out my Orchid out right now, this guy won't be able to take my Dragon at all, or Orchid at all, and my Orchid won't be able to take the guy. But the Orchid does have a special ability where it kind of works like the Not Weak, where it has a range of effect around it in the spell squares. So if I move him right here, you see that player 2 can't move his 5 anymore because it is stuck with my Orchid. Its range of effect is its square around it. The only thing is it still can make harmonies. So if player 2 moves his red 3, connecting with his white 5, he can make a harmony and summon anything he wants to either move it away or whatnot. So yeah, it won't be able to take anything until you bring out your own White Lotus, which you would have to do so by making a harmony. So, for instance, if we make a harmony there and bring out the White Lotus, if you notice, my guys or my Orchid still can't take anything because my White Lotus is not blooming yet, or it's not in play yet. So to get that in play, we would have to put that right there. Now, if you notice, once that is in play, now my Orchid can take anything on the field, including the enemy's White Lotus. So if I move him over here, see, I can take the enemy's White Lotus, but the enemy can also can also take the Orchid, and my enemy's tiles can also take the Orchid. So here's an interesting case with having 2 Orchids on the field with no White Lotus. They can't take each other, obviously, because the White Lotus is on the field, but they can block each other in, where neither of them can move. But if one of them have the White Lotus in play on the field, now both of them can take each other. This one, the first player can't take any other tiles because they don't have their White Lotus, but since the opposing Orchid can take it, then this Orchid can take him. I know that's a little confusing. So for instance, this guy, player 2, can take any tile on the field, like so, because his is in play. But player 2 can't take anybody on the field. If you notice, can't take the White Lotus or anything. But it can take the other Orchid. Now let's say if we do this example with two White Lotus on the field for each Orchid. Now both of them can take everything, including each other's White Lotus. Now if he does take his White Lotus, now the other Orchid can't take anything besides the other Orchid. It can't even take the other White Lotus. So the Orchid is a very complex tile. Definitely play around with it to see what you can do with it. One special thing you can always do in any game, if you have any game set up whatsoever where you're playing someone, you can always go into the bar and go to Sandbox mode. Now this mode makes it where you can play as them and you at the same time, and you can kind of test out different things. Honestly, one of the greatest things about this site is the Sandbox mode whilst being in the game, trying to play someone. And obviously this never saves. You can always go back to your games. Now that we went over all the tiles and the rules of the tiles, it's now time to get into the game and some of the other rules of the game, and when you join a game, how it looks. So when you join a game, it'll look like this. Player 1 has already picked their tiles, and it's your turn to pick your tiles. So you would pick your tiles, and then that would start the game. Now, if you're player 2, you make the first 2 moves. You place a tile, and when you place any tile you want, the opponent, it will automatically put that tile over there for them. So they actually won't be able to pick their first tile. It's just automatically whatever you choose. And then you have a second move. So you can either move or you can plant another tile. In either gate, it doesn't matter. And then after that, it will be player's 2 turn. Alright, and as you can notice, these are separated in white and red tiles. Now, the white can go in the yellow, on the line, the bridge, as it's called, and the white, while the red can go in the yellow, the bridge, and in the red. That's the bridge. And as you notice, the white can't go into red, and red can't go into white. The White Lotus and the Orchid and all the ancient tiles actually can go in either or. Once the ancient tiles are put down, which the ancient tiles are the rock, the boat, the wheat knot, and wheel, those can't move once they're put down. They're permanently there, but the White Lotus and the Orchid can both move, obviously. When you make a harmony, you can obviously summon or plant a basic tile or ancient tile while doing so, but if you actually already have one tile in the gate when you're trying to make a harmony, so I'll show you that example real quickly, and you make a harmony, you cannot summon another basic tile, only in ancient tile. Reason why is because you already have one planted in there. But since the White Lotus and the Orchid are not considered basic tiles, you can plant those. But if you see player 2 if he makes a harmony, since he doesn't have any tiles planted, he can plant a basic tile or an ancient tile in the respective gates. I do want to show one more example of the disharmony tiles, where the disharmony tiles are the red 3 and the white 3, and how they're not allowed to be on the same line except for if another tile is blocking it. If you can see, it is players 2, red 4. Now, normally it can move all around, but since it's blocking these two and it's against the rules for these two to be on the same horizontal or vertical line, it has to stay in between them. It can move anywhere it wants in between them. But once one of them moves out of the same horizontal or vertical line, now red 4 can move anywhere. And just as another example, if player 2 or player 1, summons or plants a tile in this gate right here, for example, it's going to be the opposing tile to red 3, which is white 3. If you notice, red 3 cannot capture this tile in here. Whatever it does when it tries to move, it cannot move into this area. But white 3 can move out of that area and capture red 3. Unless if red 3 retreats into the red zone, because there's no way white can go into the red zone, so it will be safe in there. And that's just one example of disharmonies and capturing with disharmony tiles. Right, now I went over the brief overview of the tiles, how they work, and somewhat how the gameplay worked. I think the best way to show you how everything works is by jumping into a already finished game and just looking at it and see how what they did and why. So if you're looking at this, it's actually player 1, host, who created the harmony ring around the middle point. If you notice, you can be as far or as close as you want to be to that middle point when you make a harmony ring or a winning, etc. All right, now let's go back to the beginning of the game. All right, if you notice, this guy started out with placing the rows, which automatically makes host place a rose. It has no choice, and he still gets to move, so he does. So the host, seeing that there's an open gate down here, summons a white 5 because it will summon with its red 3. Second player, guest, plays as well a white 5, most likely to come over here and to harmonize with its red 3. White 5 moves out, and his white 5 moves out. Seeing that there's an open gate, player 1 most likely is going to put another red 3 here to harmonize with it, which he does. In retaliation, guest makes a harmony, and since it has no other planted tiles, plays a red 4, which will harmonize with its red 3. Player 2, or player 1, I mean, host, puts his red 3 into play, making a harmony. Since he already has a tile planted, he can't place a basic tile, so instead he plants his white Lotus, an ancient tile. So red 4 moves out, while white Lotus moves out, make harmony with red 3, and in doing so places a Orchid, which, since the white Lotus is played, which means the Orchid can take everything and everything can take the Orchid, but it is safe from capture while still being in the gate. Moves red 3 up, most likely to move this down here to get 4. Moves white 5 down, just 1, most likely to move red 3 out here to make a harmony. So the guest put the red 4 harmonizing with red 3, since nothing planted, placed a White Lotus, which actually he could have placed anything, not only the White Lotus. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but White Lotus, the only thing it doesn't harmonize with is another White Lotus. So if you actually put it right in the middle there, they wouldn't be harmonizing at all. But first player, the host of the game, I said the guest, is going to put red 3 over here, which harmonize with white 5, and gonna put a wheel to move them right over. So let's show that again. If we sandbox this game, I can actually show you how you can do that. So what he did is moved his red 3 right here to make a harmony. And since he already has stuff planted, he can't place a basic tile anywhere, but he can place any ancient tile. It goes with the wheel. Can't place a wheel right here because there's something in the gate. If nothing was in the gate, you can place it right there. So instead, he puts it right here to move it sideways and to get the win, to make the harmony around the middle. Now, in retrospect, what the guest should have done right here, what he should have done is once he moved down here to make that harmony, he should have blocked altogether everything that's going down here. So now there's no way to make a harmony down here. So it would have to be something like move up, and it would be a lot longer game that way, and he's in a better position to get something on his side because this can't come out and take anything, because everything is too far away to even trap and gather. Alright, so here is another game where host 1, you can see here's the most middle point right there, and it is harmonizing with white 5, 2 red 3s, and a white Lotus around. Let's see at the beginning what happened. So guest plays a white 5, which will automatically make host play a white 5. And then second move is playing a second white 5. Now, this setup is actually a pretty good setup, because if you get another one out, you already have 2 solving ones. If you get this like over here and this one somewhere over here, you just need 2 more, and it's really easy to get out. So it's a good starting strategy. So the host plays the opposite of it, which is or not the opposite, but plays what will harmonize with it, which could have been a white 4, but instead he did a red 3, because red 3 can go in the red and the white 4 cannot go in the red, but can go in the white. Right, so then guest moves white 5 out into position, which leaves the gate open. So host plays another white 5, that way it can make a harmony directly. Then guess white 3 or guess white 5 goes to -1-3, which is the position in the white square, most likely getting in a better position when it does bring out its harmony tiles. Then white 5 moves out for host, then guest plays a white 4, which will harmonize with both these white 5. Now, just to know that you cannot harmonize while something is still in the gate. So if for instance his white 5 was over here in -8, -1, or anywhere on this line, it will not be making a harmony with this with any tile. Even if this was moved out, it will still not make a harmony through the gates. So that is very important. This is the first position. This line out here is the first place where you can make a harmony going through something horizontally. Then every line after that up to here. And same thing here this is vertically and this is horizontally here up to here. If that doesn't make sense, I apologize. Hopefully I'll show you another example of that makes it more clear. So red 3 moves out to harmonize. Red 3 moves out to harmonize with white 5, which, since they already have white 5 in the gate, they cannot summon the basic tile. They have to do an ancient tile. If they even want to, you can always skip and do nothing if you want. That's always an option as well. And then he summons his White Lotus, most likely to put that right there to make an almost exact harmony ring around everything. White 5 moves up for Guest, and Lotus comes out and harmonizes with Red 3 and places Orchid. Then the other White 5 from the bottom gate comes out for Guest. And then Red 3 comes out, most likely to somehow get way over here or somewhere in the middle to complete this harmony, because it just needs one more to have a complete harmony. White 5 moves up to most likely not only begin position, but to also block any harmony that might be happening with the Red 3 and the White Lotus. Red 3 moves out, which leaves the gate open, which in response plays another Red 3, most likely to harmonize with its two things already out on the field, and if it can get its White 4 out on the field as well, then it will have all tiles needed to make a harmony, to make a full harmony ring around the center. Red 3 moves up, White 4 moves down, most likely to make a harmony soon. White 5 moves over. Now, the reason why most likely White 5 moved over instead of moving Red 3 up is there's no way you would have everything. You can make a harmony and use any ancient tiles, but if anybody gets in the way after that, it doesn't matter. You can't block it because everything's already harmonized. So instead, you move up White 5. So now Red 3 has one move to get in place, and if anything does come in the way, it has a chance to either harmonize with the Lotus to get it out of the way, or harmonize with the White 5 to get any tile blocking it out of the way. So, for instance, that same thing happens where it does block the White 5 by putting a Not Weak, which affects each adjacent square to it, so this whole block, nothing can make a harmony. So actually, Guest responds by putting this in place because he knows if he moves the White Lotus down, then he can make a boat to destroy that. So Guest responds by trying to get it in place, but it doesn't matter because host already wins, and I'll actually show you what he did to get that win. So if we go to, and there's actually multiple ways you could do this win. You could do it with the boat or with the wheel. So if we Sandbox it, so this is the way he did it, is to put this here, and then use the boat to destroy it. And that would make it. Or you could put this here, and also use the wheel. Move that out of the way, and move this into it, and that would also give you a win, because the wheel moves everything horizontally. So move this here, this moves up 1, and this moves up 1. So those are two ways you can attempt to get across it, but he used the boat. Now this is just an example to more solidify what I was saying earlier about not making a harmony in the gates, because I felt like that wasn't clear without a clear example. So for instance, we know that White 5 and Red 3 harmonize, but if you see, when Red 3 is still in the gate, it doesn't harmonize. And if Red 3 even moved out, it wouldn't be able to harmonize. So for example, if we move Red 3 out like this, you see no harmony, because this is the gate and nothing can harmonize in between the gate. But with White host sides over here, if we move Red 3 out as well, not covered by the gate, not through the gate, then it harmonizes no problem. So that's just to show how harmony works through and not through the gate. So again, harmonizes here, but it doesn't harmonize when it's like this, because the gate's in the middle. Hopefully that's a little more clear. All right, in this example, hopefully you can see that the Guest actually won this one with the harmony of White 5, Red 3, White 5, and Red 3 around the centermost point. And let's go through and see if we can see what they did. Alright, so Guest, who has the first two moves, places a a rose, which will automatically make the host place a red 3, also known as a rose. Then for his second move, instead of moving, he places a white 3. I mean a white 5, which the guest also does the same. Or I mean the host does the same, plays a white 5. Alright, then guest moves white 5 out as much as it can. And so does the host as well. White 5 for guest goes into position, and host blocks position that's in. So instead of moving out the red 3, because it won't make a harmony, summons to the right gate at 8-0 another red 3 so it can pop up and make another harmony. Host doing the same thing by putting a red 3 so it can also come out and make a harmony. But guest moves out red 3 from bottom gate, leaving it open, the only gate open. And then instead of summoning something at the gate, host just moves the red 3 out of the 0-8 gate, or the north gate. Guest puts red 3 harmonizing with white 5 to summon another white 5 because there was no other tiles that the guests had in the gates. He could choose basic flowers or any of the ancient tiles. So he chose a basic. So white does the same thing, or host does the same thing, move out the red 3 to harmonize with the white 5 to summon a white 5 because when the red 3 moved out, it didn't have any of their tiles in the gates, so they could do a basic tile or an ancient tile. So then the guest moves red 3 to -2, -4, most likely to move this one over to make a harmony, to move the white 5 over to make a harmony with this bottom red 3. Right, so host moves up, coming up into the middle, make the harmony for this, for the white Lotus to come out. And then guest moves red 3 back, so to harmonize with the white 5 it's summoned. Host also moves forward, so now what the host is actually doing is trying to get all these into the middle and then to play a wheel in the middle to make them all a harmony. It's a sneaky way to make a harmony, but it's a great plan. So it's really the race to see who gets it. So the guest summons a white 4, also known as a lily, to the -8-0 gate, help complete the harmony, but it will make a harmony with white 5, which will allow him to play any ancient tile, which he hasn't played any. Alright, so the red 3 moves in closer, just trying to get to the middle more. And so guest moves white 4 into position to harmonize with white 5 to play a rock in the middle, so he can't play the wheel without getting rid of the rock first with the boat. Which he does. He makes a harmony with the white Lotus and gets rid of the wheel. So to do the same thing, made a harmony with the red 3, which harmonized with the white 5 to place a wheat knot in the middle, so he has to use his second boat to get rid of that. Which he does, moving his white Lotus back in to harmonize with his white 5 to use a boat to get rid of that in the middle. Right, he moves his white 5 here. Now all he has to do is get his red 3 right here, then play a wheel, which will turn all his middle pieces to make a winning harmony around the center. But it doesn't matter because guest wins in one move. He moves white 5 out and around down here. And when he does that, it makes a harmony and he plays a wheel. He places the wheel right here in the center. So he moves them out of the way, and we can actually show you how he did that if we go into Sandbox. And we actually show that winning move. So you have to move it down where it's harmonizing with red 3 on both sides. And since that's in the way, you can, Guess has an opportunity to do any basic tile or ancient tile. He does ancient tile, and he puts it right here. The reason why he puts this right here, because it will move this white 5 over 1, and it'll move this white 5 down 1, which doesn't matter that it moves it down 1. He just wanted it out of the way, which does so. But if we showed what happened if he didn't do that, if red 3 actually did make it into the middle on both sides, which he was actually 1 away from this side, and this red 3 made it in the middle, it would have harmonized, and he could have played a wheel. That wheel would have made it where almost winning, besides my middle piece being there. So he had a good plan. He was trying to get this done. Yeah, that was a little more of a complicated match to understand how some of the ancient tiles worked in that. Hopefully that clears it up just a little bit more. Alright guys, I hope that helped understand the basics of Skud Pai Sho. One of my favorite versions of Pai Sho, the one I played the most, and the one that looks most accurate to the show. A lot of fun. Hopefully you get the basic down with this. I'll definitely put up some more videos looking at more advanced techniques. This was just to get the overall gist of how the pieces look. If you don't understand anything or certain things, definitely go into and leave a comment, and I'll definitely try to answer them best of my abilities. If there's a lot of things people are confused about, I will make an in-depth video about that, about things that people are confused about. And hopefully if anything confuses you, you can always go back to the beginning, rewind, and find out what was wrong. But a couple of things I want to show you what's interesting about the site is there's the global chat, game chat, where you can talk to the person you're playing the game with, and help. Help is the most important one, I think, because it hovers over each piece. It tells you on the right-hand side what it is. Like this first one, which I call red 3, is the rose. It says it's the host tile, basic flower tile. Can move up to 3 spaces, forms harmonies with the white jade, also known as the white 5, and the chrysanthemum, also known as the red 4. And it clashes, which means disharmonize with the jasmine, which is the white 3. So this help bar, definitely redundant, but very helpful to help you with the quick tricks. And also, the best thing about it, if you go down here to Pai Sho game preferences, you can actually change the board style and also the tile style of whichever you prefer. My favorite one is actually the air, and I do the basic tiles because these are the tiles I learned on before we had any other, so I'm less confused. But it's the same rules for any tile. They're both count as red 3, red 4, red 5, white 3, white 4, white 5. Everything's exactly the same. It's just it's a different look. And again, I like this look better just because I learned with this one. So hopefully you guys go and try out the site. It's definitely a lot of fun. If you guys have any questions at all and you want an answer right away, you can go to the global chat, and up here is the Discord. And you can ask any questions in the Discord. The community is very nice, and you can even find games with people if no one's online at the time. All right, I hope you guys have a great day.